It was an accident. The kind of accident that ruins lives. Not with force, not with intention, but with the small, stupid, mechanical indifference of a device that doesn't know whose ears it's supposed to be in. I was folding laundry. A Wednesday. 2:30 in the afternoon. The house was quiet. Our daughter Zoe was at preschool. Owen was at work. And I was standing in the bedroom, sorting darks from lights, with a podcast playing through my phone speakers, because my own AirPods were dead on the nightstand, the way they always were, because I could never remember to charge them, and Owen had stopped reminding me, because Owen had stopped noticing the things about me that used to make him smile and say you'd lose your head if it wasn't attached. He didn't say that anymore. He didn't say much anymore, but I'll get to that. My phone made a sound, not a notification, a connection sound. The soft chime that means a Bluetooth device has paired, followed by a banner at the top of my screen. Owen's AirPods Pro connected. His AirPods were in the house. He must have left them in a jacket pocket, in a bag, on the counter. They were close enough to my phone to auto-connect, the way they do when they can't find their primary device, the way Apple designed them to, because Apple designed them for families that share and trust and have nothing to hide. We were that family. Or I thought we were. The podcast stopped playing through the speakers and switched to his AirPods wherever they were. I tapped the screen to switch the audio back, and my thumb, my stupid, careless, life-altering thumb, hit the wrong thing. Instead of disconnecting, I opened the audio source menu, and there, under Recently Played, was something that was not my podcast. Voice memo. No title. Recorded yesterday. Tuesday, 9:14 p.m. Duration, 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I should have disconnected. I should have switched the audio back to my speakers and gone back to folding darks and lights and never opened the door that was sitting on my screen disguised as a small gray waveform. I should have done that because I trusted my husband, and trust means not looking, and not looking means safety, and safety is the thing you build a marriage on. But the thing about trust is that it only works in one direction. You can trust someone who deserves it. You can't untrust something you've already heard. And my thumb had already moved. The voice memo was already playing, and the first thing I heard was my husband's voice saying a name that was not mine. Hey, Sienna. 2 words. A greeting. The most ordinary sound in the world. A man saying a woman's name into a recording, except for the way he said it. Soft, private, the vocal equivalent of closing a door. The voice you use in the dark, in the space between awake and asleep, when you're talking to someone who exists in a room that nobody else is allowed to enter. I stood in my bedroom with a pillowcase in my hand and my husband's voice in my ears, and I listened. I know I said I wouldn't do this anymore. The memos. You told me to stop sending them because it's too risky. And you're right, it is. But I'm sitting in the driveway right now. I just got home, Cass is inside, Zoe's already asleep, and I can't go in yet. I need a minute, I need to talk to you first. Even if you don't hear this for hours, even if you delete it, I need to say this to you before I walk through that door and pretend I'm someone I'm not. Cass. That's me. Cassidy. Cass. The name my husband used when he was being casual, being warm, being the man I married. He was using it now the way you use a prop to set the scene, to place me in the story, to locate me inside the house he was about to enter, while his real voice, his real self, sat in the driveway and spoke to someone named Sienna. I sank onto the bed. The pillowcase was still in my hand. I was gripping it the way you grip something when the floor moves, not because it helps, but because your body needs to hold something when the thing you were holding has just been taken. I almost told her tonight, he said, at dinner. Zoe was doing the thing where she puts peas on her fork one at a time and narrates it like a cooking show, and Cass was laughing, and I was sitting there watching them, and I thought I could say it right now, right here, between the peas and the pasta. I could just say it and let the sentence land, and watch what happens. A pause, breathing, the sound of a man sitting in a parked car in his own driveway, composing himself. But I didn't, because the sentence would break her. And Zoe is 3, and she doesn't know what any of this means, and if I say the sentence, then the pasta and the peas become the last normal dinner we ever have, and I can't be the one who takes that from her, even though I already have. Even though every time I sit at that table and pretend I'm present, I'm taking it, just slowly, the way you take something when you don't want anyone to hear the sound it makes when it goes. My hands were not steady. I want to be honest about that because every woman before me in these stories had steady hands and I did not. My hands were shaking. The pillowcase was shaking. My phone was on the bed, and his voice was coming through his AirPods, which I could now hear were somewhere in the room, the closet maybe, or his coat, and the sound was tinny and small, the sound of a secret leaking out of a container that was never designed to hold it. "I love you," he said. To her. To Sienna. 3 words that belonged to me and were being spent on someone else, like currency withdrawn from a joint account and deposited somewhere I couldn't see. I know that complicates things. I know you said not to say it until I've made a decision. But the decision is made, Sienna. It's been made for months. I just haven't found the courage to execute it. And I sit in this driveway every night, and I look at the lights on in our kitchen, and I think about the woman inside and the woman on this recording, and I know that I'm the villain in this story. I know that. I just don't know how to stop being him. The memo ended. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The silence afterward was the loudest thing I have ever experienced, louder than Zoe's first cry in the delivery room, louder than the vows he'd spoken 4 years ago, louder than every "I love you" he'd said to me in the years since, because the silence was the sound of all those things being revealed as partial, conditional, shared. I found the AirPods. They were in the pocket of his navy blazer, the one he'd worn to work yesterday, the one he'd hung in the closet when he came home, when he walked through the door that he'd sat in the driveway not wanting to walk through, when he'd kissed my forehead and said "long day" and sat down to watch his daughter narrate peas. I put the AirPods back in the pocket. I closed the closet door. I finished folding the laundry. Darks, lights, towels, Zoe's small shirts with the butterflies. I folded every piece. I put them away. I made the bed. I straightened the pillows. And then I sat on the edge of the bed that I shared with a man who loved someone else, and I opened my phone, and I did not cry, and I did not call him, and I did not scream. I searched the name Sienna because the voice memo was 4 minutes and 11 seconds long, and it had answered the question of whether. Now I needed to answer the question of who. And then I would answer the question of what. What I was going to do about a man who sat in my driveway every night and rehearsed his love for someone else before coming inside to perform his love for me. I found Sienna in 11 minutes. Not because I'm a detective, because I'm a mother with a preschooler. And mothers with preschoolers know every parent, every teacher, every name on every birthday party invitation that has ever passed through their child's backpack. And the name Sienna had passed through Zoe's backpack 4 months ago on a pale pink envelope with a unicorn sticker, inviting Zoe to a birthday party for a girl named Mila. Mila's mother's name was Sienna Novak. I'd met her twice. Once at the birthday party, a Saturday afternoon in a backyard with a bounce house and too many cupcakes, and once at preschool pickup, a brief exchange at the door, 2 mothers making the small talk that small children require. She was pretty in a way I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been looking for it. Dark hair, quick smile, the particular kind of attractiveness that doesn't announce itself but stays in the room after the person has left. She was divorced. I knew that because the other mothers knew that. Because preschool is a small country and information travels through it the way weather travels through Kansas, fast, flat, and impossible to outrun. She was divorced. Her daughter Mila was in Zoe's class, and her name was the name my husband had whispered into a voice memo in my driveway while I washed the dinner dishes inside. I sat on the bed and I looked at her Instagram, public, because Sienna Novak had nothing to hide, or believed she had nothing to hide, or had the particular confidence of a woman who had already survived a divorce and had decided that hiding was something she no longer did. Her feed was mostly Mila, the park, the beach, a Halloween costume, the ordinary documentary of a mother raising a child alone. But 6 photos back, there was something that stopped my scrolling the way a wall stops a car. A photograph of a coffee cup, taken at a table. And in the reflection of the window behind the cup, blurred, barely visible, a ghost in the glass was a man's hand on the table, next to another hand, and on the wrist of the first hand was a watch I recognized, because I had given it to Owen for his 35th birthday, and because I had had it engraved on the back with 2 words, always, Cass. Always. I zoomed in. The reflection was poor. Phone camera, window glass, the imprecision of a moment captured accidentally. But the watch was unmistakable. The silver band, the square face, the particular way it sat on a wrist I had held 1,000 times. Owen's hand, on a table, next to Sienna's hand, in a photograph posted 3 months ago with the caption, Tuesday mornings. Tuesday mornings. Owen left for work at 7:30. He worked downtown, a 40-minute commute. But every Tuesday for the past how long, he had apparently been stopping for coffee with a woman whose daughter was in our daughter's class, at a table by a window close enough to touch. I closed Instagram. I opened Zoe's preschool directory, the PDF every parent received at the start of the year, with names, emails, and phone numbers. Sienna Novak was on page 3. Her address was listed. She lived 11 minutes from us. 11 minutes. The same neighborhood, the same zip code, the same grocery store, the same preschool drop-off lane where I had probably been 4 cars behind her, without knowing that the woman ahead of me in the line was also ahead of me in my husband's heart. I want to tell you what I felt in that moment, but I don't have a word for it. It wasn't anger. Anger is clean. It has edges, direction, a target. What I felt was closer to vertigo. The kind you get when you're standing on solid ground and the ground turns out to be a trapdoor, and the fall isn't fast, it's slow, rotating, disorienting. The kind of fall where you can see the walls passing but can't grab any of them. My husband was in love with the mother of my daughter's classmate. My daughter had been to their house. She had eaten cupcakes in their backyard. She had played with Mila while Owen watched. While Owen and Sienna stood at the edge of a bounce house and discovered that the thing between them was not small talk but something else. While my daughter and her daughter built a friendship on the same ground where their parents were building a betrayal, I checked the calendar on our shared family app, the one Owen and I used to coordinate pickups and drop-offs and pediatrician appointments. I scrolled back through Tuesdays, and I found it not a pattern exactly, but an absence. Every Tuesday for the past 5 months, Owen had marked early meeting, I'll drop Z. He volunteered for Tuesday drop-offs. Every week. He drove Zoe to school on Tuesdays, which meant he was at the preschool on Tuesdays, which meant he was in the drop-off lane on Tuesdays, which meant he saw Sienna on Tuesdays, and the coffee with the reflected watch, and the Tuesday morning's caption was not a coincidence. It was a schedule. He had built the affair into our shared calendar. He had used our daughter as the vehicle, the way Kevin had used Celine, and the way Michael had used a pillow. These men and their ordinary instruments of destruction, a car, a note, a preschool drop-off lane, they never use weapons, they use routines. That night, Owen came home at 6:15. He kissed my forehead. He picked up Zoe and spun her, and she screamed with joy, the full-bodied joy of a 3-year-old who doesn't know that the arms holding her spend Tuesday mornings at a coffee table with someone who isn't her mother. "How was your day?" he said. "Fine," I said. "Laundry. Podcast. The usual." The usual. He smiled. The Owen smile, warm, lopsided, the smile I fell in love with at a concert 7 years ago when he was holding 2 beers and couldn't wave, so he smiled instead, and the smile was enough, and I walked over, and the rest was supposed to be the rest of my life. He went to change. I heard him open the closet. I heard the hangers slide. And I am almost certain I heard, the faintest pause when he reached the navy blazer. A half-second of stillness. The pause of a man checking a pocket, feeling the shape of the AirPods, confirming they were there, the same way Marcus had checked the gray jacket, and the same way every man who hides something in a pocket checks the pocket when he thinks no one is watching. I was watching from the kitchen, through the doorway, watching the back of a man who was holding a blazer that contained a recording of himself saying, "I love you," to a woman whose daughter ate cupcakes at our table. Dinner was normal, pasta. Zoe did the pea thing, fork, narration, performance. Owen laughed, I laughed. The kitchen was warm and full and perfect, and the perfection was a lie, and the lie was so well constructed that if I hadn't heard the voice memo, I would have believed it forever, because Owen was not a sloppy liar. He was an architect of normalcy. He built evenings the way other men build houses, with intention, with craft, with the understanding that the structure needs to look solid even when the foundation is sand. After Zoe went to bed, we sat on the couch. Owen watched something. I held my phone and pretended to scroll and thought about the driveway. He was sitting in it right now, figuratively. Every evening on this couch was the emotional equivalent of sitting in the driveway, the pause before the performance, the breath before the pretending, the minute he needed before he walked through the door of our marriage and played the role of a man who was in it. "You okay?" he said. "You're quiet tonight." "Just tired." "You should go to bed. I'll lock up." "In a minute." I sat there, next to him, our shoulders almost touching, and I thought about what I knew and what I didn't know and what I needed before I could do the thing I was going to do. I knew the who. Sienna Novak. Divorced. Mila's mother. 11 minutes away. I knew the when, Tuesdays, coffee, drop-offs, at least 5 months, probably longer. I knew the what, a voice memo, 4 minutes and 11 seconds, in which my husband told another woman he loved her and called himself the villain, and sat in our driveway because he couldn't face walking through the door. What I didn't know was the how, not how the affair started. I could reconstruct that from the calendar and the cupcakes and the drop-off lane. What I didn't know was how I was going to respond. Because the women before me, Natalie, Jenna, Mira, Marin, they had plans. They had envelopes and air tags and financial summaries and closing arguments. They had the luxury of precision, of control, of methodical dismantlement. I didn't have a plan. I had a pillowcase and a voice memo and a 3-year-old daughter who called the other woman's daughter her best friend. And I had until Tuesday, because Tuesday was drop-off day. Tuesday was coffee day. Tuesday was the day my husband drove our daughter to school and stopped on the way home to sit at a table with a woman whose hand touched his under, a window that caught the reflection of a watch I had engraved with a word that no longer meant what I thought it meant. Always. I had 5 days, and I was going to use every one of them. Tuesday morning, Owen woke up at 6:45. I was already awake. I had been awake since 4, lying on my side of a bed that felt like a country with a border down the middle, listening to him breathe the way I used to listen to him breathe, when breathing meant safety and closeness, and the particular comfort of a body you trust beside yours in the dark. It didn't mean that anymore. Now it was just breathing. Air in, air out, the mechanical function of a man who was alive and beside me and already gone. He showered, he dressed. He came into the kitchen where I was making Zoe's lunch, turkey sandwich, cut diagonal, grapes in a small container, a note that said, "You are brave," because I wrote her a note every day, and today the word brave felt like something I was borrowing from my daughter, because I had run out of my own supply. "I'll take her," Owen said Tuesday, his line, the volunteer, the good father who drives his daughter to school on Tuesdays because he wants to, because he's present, because he cares. "Actually," I said, "I'll take her today." He stopped, coffee mug halfway to his mouth. The smallest pause. Not long enough for a person who wasn't looking to see, but I was looking. And I saw it. The recalculation. The machine behind his eyes adjusting to an input it wasn't expecting.
You sure? I don't mind.
I know you don't, but I want to. I miss the drop-off. I never get to do it. Okay. He smiled. The lopsided smile. The one I fell in love with. The one that was currently performing the role of casual acceptance, while the man behind it was redrawing his Tuesday. "Tell Zoe," I said, "have a good day." He kissed my forehead. He left for work. I listened to the garage door open and close, and I stood in the kitchen with a turkey sandwich in my hands, and I breathed. I drove Zoe to school. She sang a song in the car seat about a caterpillar that she'd learned from a show I didn't recognize, and her voice was high and certain, and entirely unaware that her mother was driving to a preschool to do something that had nothing to do with preschool and everything to do with a coffee table and a reflected watch and a name whispered in a driveway. I parked. I walked Zoe inside. I kissed her goodbye at the classroom door, and she ran in the way 3-year-olds run, full speed, no hesitation, toward whatever is next. And I stood in the hallway, and I watched her go, and I thought, whatever happens after today, this hallway will still exist, this door will still open, this child will still run through it. That is the thing I am protecting. Not the marriage, not the man, the run, the speed, the certainty of a child who doesn't yet know that the adults around her are capable of breaking the ground she runs on. I walked back to the parking lot, and I waited. She arrived at 8:22, white Honda. Mila in the back seat, same car seat model as Zoe's, the same brand Owen and I had researched for 2 weeks before buying. Sienna parked 3 spots from me. She got out. She helped Mila out. She was wearing jeans and a gray sweater, and her hair was pulled back, and she looked exactly like what she was, a mother on a Tuesday morning taking her daughter to school. Ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of woman you wouldn't look at twice unless you had a reason. I had a reason. She walked Mila inside. I waited 4 minutes. She came back out, alone. She walked to her car. She opened the door.
Sienna.
She turned, and I watched her face do the thing that faces do when they hear a voice they weren't expecting, in a place they weren't expecting to hear it. The micro-adjustment, the placement, the search. She was trying to locate me. Not physically. I was 10 feet away, categorically. She was trying to figure out which box I fit in. Parent, teacher, Stranger.
I'm Cassidy, I said. Zoe's mom.
The box clicked. Her face relaxed into the practiced smile of a preschool parent who has just been approached by another preschool parent in a parking lot. Oh, hi, Zoe's mom. Right, the butterfly shirts. Mila talks about Zoe all the time. She talks about Mila, too. We should set up a play date. I keep meaning to. Can we talk? I said. Not about a play date. The smile held for one more second. Then it changed. Not dramatically. A shift in pressure. The way a room changes when someone opens a window and the air moves differently. She was reading me now. Reading my face, my posture. The particular stillness of a woman standing in a parking lot at 8:26 a.m. with her hands in her jacket pockets and no smile to offer. Okay, she said carefully. About what? About Owen. The name landed. I watched it land, not like a slap, not like a bomb, but like a key turning in a lock, the small, precise motion of a thing fitting exactly where it was designed to fit. Her face didn't collapse. It rearranged. The smile left, replaced by something older, something that looked like it had been prepared for, rehearsed, stored in a place behind the eyes where women keep the responses to conversations they've been dreading. You know, she said, not a question. I know. Silence. The parking lot. 2 mothers. 2 car seats visible through 2 rear windows. The preschool behind us, full of children who were finger painting and singing about caterpillars and building friendships that their parents were building ruins on top of. How? She said.
His AirPods connected to my phone. There was a voice memo. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I heard all of it.
She closed her eyes, pressed her fingers to her forehead. The gesture of a woman hearing the sentence she's been afraid of and finding that the fear was accurate. It's exactly as bad as she thought. The memo, she said. I told him to stop sending those. I told him they were risky. He mentioned that in the memo, that you told him to stop because it was too risky. I paused. He didn't stop. No. She opened her eyes. He didn't. We stood there, 2 women, 10 feet apart, in a preschool parking lot, with the sound of children's voices floating through an open window behind us, and the wreckage of a family lying between us, like something spilled that neither of us could pick up. I need to ask you something, I said. And I need the truth, not Owen's version, not the version you've rehearsed in case this moment came, the actual truth. Okay, how long? She looked at the ground, then at me, and I saw the decision happen in real time, the moment a person chooses between the comfortable lie and the unbearable truth, and finds standing in a parking lot with the wronged wife 10 feet away, that comfort is no longer an option. 7 months, she said, since the fall fundraiser. We were both volunteering. Zoe and Mila were in the bounce house. We started talking, and we didn't stop. The bounce house, the same bounce house from Mila's birthday party, the structure where our daughters jumped and laughed and became best friends while their parents became something else. The geometry was so precise it felt designed, as if the universe had built a bounce house specifically to test whether 2 adults could stand beside it and not destroy everything around them. They couldn't. Did you know he was married? I said. Yes. No hesitation, no softening, the single hardest word she could have said delivered without decoration. I knew from the beginning. I knew about you. I knew about Zoe. I knew about all of it. And you did it anyway. Yes. Why? She looked at me for a long time, and what she said next was not an excuse. It was not a justification. It was the kind of sentence that only exists in parking lots and hospital rooms and the other places where the truth arrives without its makeup on. Because he showed up every Tuesday, without fail. He showed up, and he listened, and he remembered things I said 3 weeks later, and he asked questions nobody had asked me since my divorce. And I knew it was wrong. I knew what it would do to you. I knew. Her voice cracked, but I was so tired of being alone that I let myself pretend the cost was theoretical, that it was something that would happen to a woman I'd never met. And then I met you at the birthday party, and you were kind to me, and you complimented Mila's dress, and I went home and I sat in my kitchen, and I hated myself. But I didn't stop, because stopping would have meant being alone again, and alone was the thing I couldn't go back to. I looked at this woman, this mother, this person, who had taken something from me with full knowledge of what she was taking, and who was now standing in front of me, not asking for forgiveness, but offering the only thing she had left, which was the truth, unedited, standing in the open air of a preschool parking lot where anyone could hear it. I'm not going to yell at you, I said. I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not going to make a scene at our daughter's school because our daughters are inside finger painting right now and they deserve a mother who handles this like an adult. I paused. But I want you to know what your Tuesdays cost. They cost me a marriage. They cost Zoe a family. And they cost Mila a play date with her best friend. Because after today, I will be civil and I will be polite, but I will not be in your house and you will not be in mine. Her eyes filled. Not the tears of a woman who has been caught. The tears of a woman who has been carrying a weight and has just been told with precision what the weight actually weighed. I'm sorry, Cassidy. I know you are. And I meant it. She was sorry. Sorry and guilty and alone and all the things that led her here in the first place. The circular machinery of a woman who was lonely and solved it by creating a different kind of loneliness. The kind with a married man's watch on a coffee table and a voice memo in a driveway and a parking lot conversation on a Tuesday morning that would follow both of us for the rest of our lives. Now I need to go home, I said, and wait for my husband. And when he walks through the door tonight, I'm going to play him his own voice. And he's going to hear what I heard, and then we'll see what's left. I got in my car. I drove home. I parked in the driveway, the same driveway where Owen sat every night and composed himself before coming inside. And I looked at the house and the kitchen light and the door I was about to walk through, and I understood for the first time why he needed a minute before coming in. Because walking through a door when you know what's on the other side takes courage. And tonight, when he came home, the thing on the other side would be me, and his own voice, playing from my phone, saying the words he thought only Sienna would hear. Hey, Sienna. I went inside, and I waited. He came home at 6:12, 3 minutes earlier than usual. I noticed because I had been noticing everything since Wednesday, the minutes, the angles, the micro-expressions, the way a woman notices the machinery of her life once she's been shown the blueprints. He walked through the door the way he always did. Keys on the hook, jacket on the chair, the small exhale of a man arriving at the place he calls home. Except tonight I knew about the driveway. I knew about the minute he needed before coming in. And I watched for it. The transition, the shift from whoever he was in the car to whoever he performed in the kitchen. I saw it. A breath. One breath held at the threshold, released as he stepped inside. The costume change took less than a second. Hey, he said. Where's Zoe? My mom picked her up early. She's spending the night. He looked at me, not with suspicion, with curiosity. The slight tilt of a man whose routine has been altered and who is scanning for the reason. Everything okay?
Sit down, Owen.
He didn't sit. He stood in the kitchen with his keys still in his hand and his jacket still on the chair, and the look on his face shifting from curiosity to something else. The first faint weather of a man who senses a change in pressure but hasn't yet identified the storm. What's going on?
Sit down.
He sat at the kitchen island, the same island where Zoe narrated her piece, the same island where I had stood folding laundry on a Wednesday afternoon while his AirPods connected to my phone and played me a 4-minute recording of a man I didn't recognize saying words I wasn't supposed to hear. I took my phone from the counter, I set it between us, and I pressed play. Hey, Sienna. His face didn't move. For the first full second, nothing moved. Not his eyes, not his mouth, not the muscle beneath his ear that I knew as his tell. He was frozen in the specific way that men freeze when they hear their own voice saying the thing they believed was contained, private, sealed inside a device that was supposed to be loyal. And the device had betrayed him the way he had betrayed me, accidentally, mechanically, without malice. Just the dumb physics of a Bluetooth signal connecting to the wrong phone. The memo played. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I let it play in its entirety. I didn't pause. I didn't comment. I didn't watch his face, because watching his face would have meant looking at him, and looking at him would have meant feeling something, and I needed to not feel anything for 4 more minutes, because the feeling was too large and too close, and if I let it arrive before the memo ended, it would swallow me whole. So I looked at the counter, at the granite, at the small scratch near the edge that Zoe had made with a fork when she was 2, a scratch we'd argued about, and then laughed about, and then forgotten about, because that's what families do with damage. They absorb it, they smooth it over, they let the surface heal around it. But some scratches are too deep, some damage doesn't heal around. Some damage goes all the way through the granite and into the foundation, and you don't know it until you lean on the counter and it gives. The memo ended. The kitchen was silent. Owen was looking at his hands, flat on the counter. The same position as Ryan at the anniversary dinner, the same position as Kevin at the kitchen island, the universal posture of a man whose hands have been shown to be the instruments of destruction and who now doesn't know what to do with them. How? He said. One word. Not how did this happen? How did you find out?
Your AirPods. Wednesday, they connected to my phone while I was folding laundry.
He closed his eyes, and I saw it. The specific devastation of a man undone, not by investigation, not by suspicion, not by a private detective or a GPS tracker or a forensic accountant, but by a pair of wireless earbuds that cost $249 and couldn't tell the difference between his phone and mine.
I spoke to Sienna, I said.
His eyes opened. The fear arrived now, not gradually, not in stages, but all at once, the way fear arrives when you realize that the two rooms you've been keeping separate have been connected by a woman who walked between them.
You when?
This morning, at school, in the parking lot where you do Tuesday drop-offs, the same parking lot where you get coffee afterward, at a table by a window, with a watch on your wrist that says, "Always, Cass." His hand went to the watch. Reflex. The hand covering the evidence the way a child covers a broken vase, too late, too slow, the damage already visible. She told me everything, I said. 7 months. Since the fall fundraiser, the bounce house, our daughters were jumping. And you were. I stopped, breathed, sealed the crack. She knew Owen. She knew about me. She knew about Zoe. She knew the whole time.
Cass.
Don't. The word came out harder than I intended. I softened, not for him, for myself, because I had promised myself I wouldn't become the woman who screams. Not because screaming is wrong, but because screaming would mean the memo had broken me, and I was not going to let a Bluetooth accident be the thing that broke me. Don't call me that. Not right now. Right now, you answer questions. That's all you get to do. He nodded. His eyes were wet. The lopsided smile was gone. In its place was the face I'd never seen. The face behind the performance, the face that sat in the driveway every night before coming inside, the face of a man who knew he was the villain and hadn't found the exit. In the memo, I said, you said the decision was made, that it had been made for months. You just hadn't found the courage to execute it. I paused. What was the decision? He looked at me, and I watched him fight it. The instinct to soften, to reframe, to find the version of the truth that would hurt the least. I watched him reach for the comfortable answer the way a man reaches for a railing on a staircase, and I watched him find that the railing was gone. I was going to leave, he said, after Christmas. I was going to tell you after the holidays, so Zoe would have one more normal Christmas. One more normal Christmas. As if Christmas with a father who is counting the days until departure is normal. As if a tree and presents and carols can be normal when the man hanging the ornaments is rehearsing his exit speech in the shower. He was going to give our daughter one more performance, one more season of pretending, wrapped in lights and tinsel, and call it a gift. And go where, I said. To her? To the apartment 11 minutes from our house? Move in with Sienna and Mila, and build a new family on the ashes of this one, while your daughter goes to the same school as the girl who replaced her? It's not. Mila isn't replacing. Mila is 3 years old, and she's not replacing anyone. But you are, Owen. You're replacing this family with a new one. Same school, same drop-off lane, same bounce house, and Zoe would have to watch it. Every Tuesday, every pickup, every birthday party, she would have to watch her father live a different life in the same zip code. He put his forehead on the counter, the same gesture as Ryan, the same sound, small, defeated, the sound of a man whose architecture has collapsed and who is lying in the rubble, trying to remember what the building looked like before he took it apart. I need to tell you what's going to happen, I said. Not because I've decided everything, because I've decided enough. He raised his head. You're going to sleep somewhere else tonight, and tomorrow, and for as long as I need to figure out what this family looks like without your performance in it. I paused. You are not going to do Tuesday drop-offs. I will do them. You will not see Sienna at that school. If you need to see your daughter, you call me and we arrange it, on my schedule, at my comfort level. You lost the right to design the calendar when you used it to hide an affair. Cassidy, please. I'm not finished. I picked up the phone. I held it up. The voice memo still on the screen. The small, gray waveform that contained the last 7 months of my marriage, compressed into 4 minutes and 11 seconds. You said in this memo that you're the villain. You said you don't know how to stop being him. Here's how, Owen. You stop performing. You stop sitting in driveways composing yourself. You stop building evenings that look solid when the foundation is sand. You tell the truth to me, to your daughter when she's old enough, to yourself, and you live with what the truth costs. Because the truth is going to cost you, but it's going to cost less than one more Christmas of pretending. I set the phone down, I stood up. The AirPods are in your blazer, I said. Left pocket. Take them. And next time you record a love letter to someone who isn't your wife, check the Bluetooth settings first. He stood. He went to the closet. He took the blazer. He took the AirPods. He stood at the door, the same threshold, the same breath. And this time there was no transition, no costume change, no performance. Just a man in a doorway, holding a navy blazer, looking at a woman he had underestimated for 7 months and was only now beginning to see. I do love you, he said. I know the memo says, I know what it says, but I love you too. I never stopped. That's the problem, Owen. You loved us both, and you chose to tell her and perform for me. That's not love. That's logistics. He left. The door closed. The house was quiet. I sat on the kitchen floor, not on a chair, not on the couch. The floor, the cold tile, because the floor was the lowest I could go, and the lowest was where I needed to be before I could start climbing back, and the climbing was going to take a long time, and I wanted to begin from a place that was honest about how far I had to go. Zoe came home the next morning. She ran through the door the way 3-year-olds run, full speed, no hesitation. She grabbed my legs and said, "Mommy, I made a picture at Grandma's." And she held up a crayon drawing of 4 figures, me, Owen, Zoe, and a small purple blob. She said was our cat, who is orange, but Zoe draws everything in purple because purple is the color of certainty. I put the drawing on the refrigerator, next to the preschool calendar, next to the photo of the 3 of us at the beach last summer when Owen built a sandcastle with Zoe, and I watched them and thought, this is it. This is the life. This is what I built. The sandcastle was gone. The tide had come in the way tides do, not with anger, not with punishment, just with the slow, indifferent certainty of a thing that was always coming. But the drawing was on the refrigerator, and the refrigerator was in the kitchen, and the kitchen was in the house, and the house was mine. Here is what I know after all of it. Love is not a voice memo. It is not a whispered name in a driveway. It is not a coffee table by a window or a watch engraved with a word that was supposed to mean forever. Love is the thing that happens inside the house, in the kitchen, at the island, between the peas and the pasta, and it is either there or it isn't, and no Bluetooth device can create it or destroy it. What Bluetooth can do is reveal it, and what it revealed on a Wednesday afternoon while I was folding laundry was that the man I married had been performing love for me while recording it for someone else. My name is Cassidy. My husband's AirPods connected to my phone. The last thing they played was a voice memo to a woman named Sienna. And the first thing I played for him was his own voice, saying the words he thought I'd never hear. The AirPods are his now.
The house is mine.
And the drawing on the refrigerator is in purple because my daughter doesn't know yet that the world is more complicated than crayons, and I am going to let her believe that for as long as I can,